is also dry. And the chicken medium is looking dry as well, so that's pretty good. We've had a couple of soft fast type mediums. This weekend was cold. We've got some size of beef if you want to test it.